I mean, one of the main people who is in his administration, you can read her tweets, and there are many crazy ones, like just home ownership is racist, even though something like 40 million black people own homes.
Yes.
Okay, but also she'd vote more communists. I'm not paraphrasing.
Yes.
Vote more, and he stood by her.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to read between the lines here.
Bill Maher is not holding back anymore. He is going straight after the Democratic Party's entire plan to make a comeback. And honestly, the problems he is pointing out are getting harder and harder to ignore.
And the Democrats, my God, please find somebody who can lead. Gavin Newsom is out here in California. Pulling off in his own way what I think he wants to. He's being known more for trolling Trump on his podcast or with other interviews than what he's actually doing in the state of California. They think that's leadership because they don't have it.
After that painful loss in the last election, the DNC has tried one comeback plan after another. New changes, fresh resets, and non-stop efforts to control the story. But so far, almost none of it seems to be working. Voters are not buying it. The media is not fully buying it. And even people inside the party seem unsure. Now, during a recent episode of his long-running TV show, Maher explains why he believes the party's plan is falling apart. And we've got all the details right here. So, if you enjoy straight-up political commentary with no sugarcoating, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and let's get right into it.
You're always having to serve two masters at once. One is that you are a representative of the people, but you also want to be a leader.
Yes.
And you have to always make that call. To me, what the Democrats are not doing with this is leading.
Maher's opinion on this is anything but soft. He says one of the DNC's biggest mistakes is the way it talks to younger voters. And he says this is much bigger than a simple communication problem. According to him, the party may be giving an entire generation only part of the story. The messages are there. The missing details are there. And the emotional way these issues are presented can change how people see everything. Maher believes young people are often shown selective versions of history and world events, while important background information is left out. His argument is simple. If leaders and major voices in the DNC gave young people more honest, balanced, and fact-based explanations, the reaction could be very different. Younger voters might stop and think before joining certain movements. They might not support a cause without first learning the full story. Instead, they could build their opinions on facts and context, not just feelings. And for Maher, this is not just about poor communication. He sees it as a growing trust problem that keeps pushing the party further away from voters every election cycle.
It would have to be with traditional and conventional Democrats. Let's have just a speck of empathy for them in this regard. You got a younger generation of progressive Democrats that pretty much are making their influence felt. And then you've got the old guard that are at the mercy of them. They want to maintain power. And you want to sit up, you got to receive votes. Look at what happened in New York City. No disrespect, but do we really think that Zohran Mamdani was the most qualified candidate to be mayor of New York City? Come on now, we know better. I'm wishing him well. I'm not being disrespectful. He's smart, he's sharp, he's quick on his feet. I'm not disrespecting him in any way.
And that brings us to a decision that surprised a lot of people. Zohran Mamdani, as even Stephen A. Smith pointed out, was still fairly new to politics when he was suddenly pushed into a major mayoral race with huge stakes.
But he had never done anything. You got a governor, a former governor, who was a 3-term governor, coasting to his fork before the scandal hit. You boot him out of office. He's qualified to get your support.
Critics say choosing him was a big gamble because he had not yet shown that he could handle a stage that large. At the same time, Andrew Cuomo was sitting right there. He was a 3-term governor, a very experienced politician, and someone who had already been tested on one of the biggest political stages in America before scandal changed the direction of his career. But here's the strange part. After Cuomo left office, the scandal slowly disappeared from the main political conversation. The anger cooled down. The attention moved somewhere else. Politically and publicly, the issue seemed to lose its power. And yet, instead of going back to an experienced figure whose controversy had already faded, the party moved toward Mamdani, a much newer face with a much shorter political record. From that point, the contrast becomes pretty obvious. It raises serious questions about how the DNC makes decisions, what its leaders really value, and whether experience still matters as much as it once did.
For 3 terms, en route to 4 to run the state. But you don't want to run in the city. And you're going to hand the reins to a 33-year-old
he's also a communist.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm not saying that as a slur.
All right.
I'm saying that's his political view. It's a view you're allowed to have in this country, and people are allowed to vote for it.
So you have people that don't
it's not
mind
a
that,
communist.
and they want that in this country. And unfortunately, if you're a Chuck Schumer or some of the old guards, you're at the mercy of all of that, still trying to stay in office, knowing that you got voters out there that would support that ahead of you.
Critics also say that some younger supporters connected to the DNC are becoming more interested in ideas that sound similar to communism, mostly because of the way those ideas are explained. They believe the appeal is not always based on a deep understanding of history. Instead, people may hear about the promises of these systems, while hearing much less about what happened in the real world. People like Chuck Schumer are often mentioned as experienced leaders who should do more to guide this discussion. Critics say they should explain, in simple terms, why America chose capitalism instead of communist systems by using history, economic facts, and examples from other countries. That kind of leadership could help younger voters see the bigger picture. Without that explanation, many young people may explore complicated political ideas without knowing the full story. And critics worry that this can make it easier for them to support views that do not match the lessons of history or the realities of everyday life.
I mean, one of the main people who is in his administration, you can read her tweets, and there are many crazy ones, like just home ownership is racist, even though something like 40 million black people own homes.
Yes.
Okay, but also she'd vote more communists. I'm not paraphrasing. Yes. Vote more, and he stood by her.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to read between the lines here.
Yes. Then turning around and asking the president for $21 billion.
Well, I mean, as the person who said Democrats are too weak and woke, I think that's your quote. I mean, this has got to be what you're talking about.
Maher seems to be touching on a real concern when he says the Democratic Party can sometimes look confused, overly careful, and too quick to react to the loudest people in its own group. And that image did not suddenly appear. It has been growing for years. The party has often avoided directly challenging some of the more extreme opinions inside its own ranks. Because of that, a space has opened up. Ideas that are far away from the political center have been able to grow without much pushback from inside the party. Now, nobody is saying the DNC does not care about equality or social justice. Those ideas have always been an important part of its identity. But when those goals become connected to positions that seem too far away from the economic middle, people start questioning the party's credibility. Critics say that trust is disappearing quickly, especially because most American voters still generally support free market capitalism as the main base of the economy. That basic belief has not really changed. And if the DNC keeps moving away from that idea, it may not only lose moderates, it could create problems across its entire coalition. In politics, public opinion can change faster than actual policy. And that kind of movement could create serious trouble when voters go to the polls.
I do think what you're getting at is, and I feel this when I travel, particularly in the middle of the country, like it is hard to miss as an elected leader that people are so desperate for some kind of change. Like the young people in particular will either like take it from you nicely or they will eventually kick down the door. It's just a matter of figuring out which one is going to come first. And I think the old guard has not yet caught up to the fact that the game that they learned to play, it's a totally different game now. It is a totally different operation, and they haven't adapted and they haven't left. And so no matter where you go, I think Mamdani is a New York City thing. I don't think that would work in other places.
Might work here.
But, well.
Yes, many young people truly want change. But critics say communism is not the answer. And that connects directly to the point they have been making from the beginning. They believe the problem is not the desire to change things. The real problem is that many young people may not have enough solid background information to guide that desire. They say experienced voices inside the party need to clearly explain America's foreign policy choices and how the country's economic system was built. Without that foundation, Younger audiences often have to create their opinions from small pieces of information found in different places. One big concern is the growing use of apps like TikTok, where very complicated issues are packed into short, emotional videos. When history and economics are turned into quick clips, people may get a basic idea but miss the full meaning. So critics say many young people are not seeing the entire picture, not because they refuse to learn, but because nobody has really shown them all of it.
The old guard of politics, it's done. It's over. It doesn't work anymore, and it's certainly, on my side of the aisle, not playing effective offense against Donald Trump.
Yet, there are things to be learned from Mamdani. You can take politics aside, policy aside. Very few Democrats, very few Republicans, I can't think of many, who have been able to insult, disparage, and go at Trump and still sometimes get results that are favorable for the people we represent with Trump's blessing.
For sure.
And
Because he had him to the Oval Office.
Well, but whatever, he had the fake kid, the headline that he gave him, and the different things. I mean, it's not
the
that.
guy is, it's all about personal with him. Yes, Donald Trump is not home at night reading the briefing books, I promise you.
And honestly, the panelists may have a point here. The constant attacks and nonstop negative coverage of Donald Trump do not seem to be making him weaker. In some ways, it may actually be doing the opposite. Instead of pushing voters away, all that pressure can make Trump look even more like an outsider fighting against the traditional political system. For people who already feel ignored, that image can make their connection with him even stronger. Many of his supporters see the intense opposition as proof that their original beliefs were right. And what makes this even more interesting is where Trump has been gaining support. He has made progress with groups that had supported Democrats for many years. Black voters, Hispanic voters, and even some women. No, these groups are not suddenly majority Trump voters. But even a small shift can matter a lot in a close election. And that should worry DNC strategists, because this strategy may not simply be failing. It might actually be helping Trump build a bigger coalition. Once that pattern becomes clear, it becomes very difficult to keep saying the same approach is working.
The idea of the status quo having been successful, when you see how quickly the next generation has had a completely different life than the one before, it's hard for people to truly trust that the old guard knows what they're doing in the long run. I mean, a generation ago, they were still saying UFOs, for Christ's sakes. Well, it's now UAP, So the idea of all these things are happening. I mean, you look at it, and young people, maybe they don't have it wrong.
No, it's still the
maybe it's the others who do.
Well, it could be both. I mean, it's the economy, stupid. I've asked this question so many weeks on this show, and I can never get an answer. I just don't understand the American economy. I really don't. I don't understand how there could be so much wealth, and I pay so much in taxes, and it doesn't seem to get to the people.
Now the discussion gets even more interesting. And this is where things really start to stand out. Maher puts Gavin Newsom on the spot with a very direct question. Where is all the tax money actually going? California is still known as one of the highest tax states in the country. People pay a lot, but the results often do not seem to match the price. Maher focuses on the high-speed rail project. Years have passed. Costs keep rising. Delays continue, and people still do not see much real progress. At the same time, homelessness continues to dominate the headlines, with huge camps creating serious concerns about safety and everyday life. The delays are still there, the extra costs are still there, and the same problems are still not solved. For Maher, this is not only about taxes. It is about responsibility. People pay more money and expect working systems and real results. They do not want to see bigger problems after massive amounts of money have already been spent. And this anger did not suddenly appear overnight.
And the Democrats, my God, please find somebody who can lead. Gavin Newsom is out here in California. Pulling off in his own way what I think he wants to. He's being known more for trolling Trump on his podcast or with other interviews than what he's actually doing in the state of California. They think that's leadership because they don't have it.
Stephen A. Smith's argument is just as strong. He is not simply complaining about how high taxes are. His bigger question is about where the money goes after people pay it. He says the real anger comes from spending choices that seem completely disconnected from what regular Americans actually need. Instead of putting more money into roads, public safety, and economic stability, officials sometimes spend huge amounts on projects that feel very far away from the daily problems voters deal with. And this frustration is not limited to just one political party. But critics say it can feel especially strong inside the Democratic Party, where spending plans sometimes appear bigger, more ambitious, and further removed from what ordinary people ask for. The main point is pretty simple. Americans are not only angry about paying taxes, they are angry because they pay taxes and then see very little change. They want results they can actually see. They want improvements they can measure. And many believe they are not getting them. That is exactly why Smith's argument connects with so many people.
The problem that I'm having with this conversation right now is that we're accusing the politicians of not knowing. They know. $39+ trillion in debt.
Yeah.
You can't pay TSA workers $1 billion over the last month, but you could spend $800 million to $2 billion a day. And somehow, some way, you find that money to finance a war. You knew you had the damn money. You knew where it was. You knew how you wanted to allocate it, and you knew you didn't want it to go to the American people. That ain't ignorance, that's viciousness.
That's cruelty. That's not thinking about the American public.
And now the whole debate comes back to the same bigger issue. Voices like Maher and Stephen A. Smith are not just attacking individual politicians. They are pointing toward deeper problems inside the Democratic Party. Critics say younger voters are often not given the full story. Leadership decisions raise questions about experience. Huge spending projects do not always bring the results people expect. And the party's approach to Trump may actually be helping him. When all of these things are put together, the picture becomes pretty clear. The DNC's biggest problem may not be a lack of ideas. It may be a lack of clear direction, weak accountability, and a growing distance from the everyday Americans the party says it wants to represent. This is not only a political problem. It is not just a strategy problem. At its core, critics say it is a trust problem. And if the party does not deal with these concerns, it could continue losing support from the very voters it is working hardest to win back. That is the real takeaway here. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and tell us what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.